Rebirth in the Fire Era and winning Triple Grand Prix introduction. www.zhaozhuiyuan.com Rebirth in the Fire Era, solving a huge theft case at the beginning and winning the Triple Grand Prix. By chance, I ended up living in that bustling courtyard house. The various characters who exploded with the 3 views have become neighbors living together day and night. The whole hospital thought that Yongqing was just a mud-legged person entering the city, and even the child who didn't grow hair wanted to bully him. 3 big ones https://www.zhaozhuiyuan.com. Chapter 1. Finance Room Stolen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Early morning in June 1951. In the auditorium of the Red Star Steel Rolling Plant, there are thousands of people gathered. At this moment, there was a chaotic scene here, with a group of people gathered around the closest place to the podium. Surrounded in the middle was a young man, dressed in shabby clothes, with a thin figure but a handsome appearance and a calm expression on his face. People around him were pointing at him and shouting loudly. It must be him. Is he from outside or from the countryside? This kind of thing has never happened in our factory before. How could such a big thing happen to this kid as soon as he arrived? He must have done it. Don't be fooled by his harmless appearance. Grab him up and go through the hall. If you're not telling the truth, go up to the tiger stool and pour chili water. Add 86 to the negative energy value, and 12 to it. There are really many people in power. The young man standing in the middle was eager to refute, feeling the surge of negative energy wave by wave. A faint smile flashed across the corner of my mouth, and a sentence popped out of my heart. Let the bullet fly for a while longer. As he watched the crowd around him speak more and more outrageously, Director Jing quickly stopped him loudly. Everyone, please be quiet first. Don't worry, our police will not let bad people go, and of course, they will not wrongly accuse good people. Director Zheng walked up to the young people surrounded by workers. He had been observing him all along just now, and this young man looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. At first glance, they looked like children from poor families, with several patches on the knees of their pants. His hair was a bit messy, with a vegetable-colored face, but even so, it couldn't conceal the pleasing impression his handsome appearance brought to people. He is not the only worker in the field, so he has become the target of criticism. Seeing Director Zheng, dressed in a ginger-yellow police uniform and his eyes burning with flames, the young man's eyes showed no signs of fear or evasion. When facing the collective bombardment just now, he was also such a calm that Mount Taishan collapsed in front of him without changing his color. This kind of calmness is completely incompatible with his age and his current situation. Director Zheng couldn't help but develop a strong sense of curiosity towards the young man in front of him. He was about to ask, but the young man spoke first. You are a police officer, and you are the most aware of what has happened here. Since you guarantee that you will not wrongly accuse a good person. In order to clear my suspicion, I will ask you a few questions in front of everyone. Director Zheng frowned. He is a police officer, how did he become a suspect and interrogate him? He is both curious and somewhat puzzled. Director Yang also followed over at this moment, and they were all very curious about what this young man wanted to ask. What do you want to ask? You ask. Director Zheng stared at the young man with sharp eyes. Someone broke the steel bars on the skylight and stole the money from the finance room, right? Now everyone is being detained in this auditorium. Although the information has been closed, some people who have heard some rumors have already spread the case. This kind of gathering of people actually makes this rumor known to everyone with the highest efficiency. So, the details of these cases are not a secret anymore. Director Zheng nodded as an answer. The young man continued to ask. Sawing steel bars and burglary are not one person, at least 2 people, one does physical work, the other does technical work, and enters the room to open a safe. If there is still one person, their division of labor is to release the wind, which is a clearly defined gang for committing crimes, the finance department should be a key patrol area for the security department, and the criminals can perfectly avoid the patrol time, which indicates that the case is being handled by insiders. Am I right? Director Zheng's eyes lit up, which was the judgment he had just made as an old scout after carefully surveying the scene. This kid hasn't even been to the scene, and can analyze it so accurately with just a few rumors. He couldn't help but feel a shock in his heart. Who is this kid? A young man with neatly combed hair was following Director Yang, and he could see Director Zheng's doubts. He immediately approached and whispered in Director Zheng's ear. I just asked the security department, and this kid came to the cafeteria this morning to deliver fish. The young man across from him didn't wait for the two of them to finish speaking before continuing to Director Zheng. My name is He Yongcheng and I come from Heizi. This morning, I came to the city in the ox cart of the neighboring village Qin Dezhuang. I arrived at the factory gate at 7:15, and the time I entered the factory can be found in the gatekeeper's registration book. I walked 7 minutes into the cafeteria. The first person I saw was Master He. The major theft case in your factory occurred last night. I have sufficient time to be absent as a witness, and this will be known by asking. This is my first time delivering goods to your factory, so it's impossible to know where your finance department is. The most important thing is that I do not meet the conditions for gang crime. So, I should be the first person to be cleared of suspicion. Can I leave now? Upon hearing this boy's series of words, Director Zheng, Yang Changchang, and everyone around them were shocked. The people who just identified this kid as a thief kept their mouths open and stuttered a few times before daring to speak again. Upon hearing the mention of himself, the middle-aged man standing behind the young man with a small eye and big eye bags quickly stepped forward and said, He's right. I can verify with Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com that he arrived after 7 o'clock. Director Yang, I was hired by you to help with the kitchen. I must go back to Hongbin building before noon. You insist that I make Hongbin Lu's most famous live fish with vinegar and pepper. If you want this dish to be authentic, you can only use mandarin fish and grass carp, and it must also be live fish. In our 4 or 9 cities, we can only use grass carp. During this season, grass carp are prone to death as soon as they come out of water, but every time this kid sends grass carp to Fengziyuan, it's lively and fresh. So I asked him to bring the largest one to your cafeteria today. But who would have thought that as soon as he entered the door and put down the fish, he and I were all locked up here by you. What do you call this? Director Yang saw that he was still going to speak, frowned, and quickly stopped him. Master He. I'm sorry, I'm afraid this dish won't be ready today. Once Director Zheng has cleared the suspicion, I will let you go back first. When people around heard Director Yang's words, they all started shouting loudly again. Director Yang, they have all been cleared of suspicion, what about us? We all work in the workshop, and there are witnesses when we go to the thatched cottage. We are all glorious working class, how could we do such a thing? Yeah. What kind of witness did he say? We all have it too. A strong man with a face as black as charcoal pushed over. He was half a head taller than others, and he was even thicker in size, with a voice like thunder. I won't add coal to my boiler anymore, but it's going to shut down. If this affects production, it would be a big deal. Can I also leave now? With this shout, others even joined in and demanded to go home immediately. Chapter 2. Queuing to check Palmistry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Director Zheng saw that the situation was getting angry and out of control. He stepped onto a wooden stool and raised his arms, shouting. Everyone, be quiet. I'm calling everyone here today to clear their name. We will investigate one by one later, and those who are fine can go home after work. Director Yang's face was gloomy, and he whispered to Director Zheng. Lao Zheng, an important leader, came to inspect the work in the factory today, and it will be here in another hour. The workers on the day shift are also approaching work hours, and if no results are found within this time, I'm afraid Zheng Suo's eyebrows also twisted into a big lump. After seeing the scene just now, he only had some direction in his mind, but he had no idea how to solve the case in such a short time. Factory director, today is the payday. There are thousands of people in this factory, and everyone is waiting for the rice to be cooked. It's not much different from taking lives. If the workers start a disturbance, things won't be as big as usual. The person next to Director Yang added softly. Li Huaid, I still need you to remind me. Can I, as the factory manager, not have thought of such a situation? Director Yang believes that Li Huaid is adding fuel to the fire. This Li Huaid is the best at taking the upper-class route, and the young and light one has already become the deputy director of the workshop. But he is not satisfied, always looking for opportunities to correct himself, and secretly has even greater ambitions. Today, the city leaders came to inspect the work in the factory, but unfortunately, such a big incident happened at this critical moment. Director Yang has only been in office for less than a year, so he has just established himself. If the workers start a scene in front of the city leaders, and some petty people say a few slanderous words in front of the leaders, they may not be able to keep their black hat on their heads. Suddenly, Director Yang's gaze fell on the young man delivering the fish, and his eyes lit up. Young man, your name is He Yongqing. Your analysis just now makes a lot of sense. Can you help us find this thief? Li Huaid, who was standing beside him, casually curled his lips. Director Yang was really sick and had to seek medical attention. A fish delivery man, is he even more powerful than a police officer? Li Huaid secretly looked at Director Zheng again, who was an old soldier who had retired from the battlefield. People who serve in the military have a hot temper that ignites easily, and Li Huaid's eyes twitched. Director Zheng, I see you are also quite in a difficult situation. If you really have no ideas, let's follow what Director Yang said. Let this fish seller analyze the case for us. This statement seems to be correct, as if it's helping Director Yang speak, but in reality, it's just teasing Director Zheng. On an average person, one would definitely feel that Director Yang did not look down upon his own director, did not believe in the police, but believed in a young boy who was delivering fish. What Li Huaid didn't expect was that Director Zheng said after listening to his words. I also have this intention. This young man has a clear mind and his words are organized. Now we also need to mobilize the power of the masses and brainstorm. Let's listen to his analysis. The black-faced man suddenly said in dissatisfaction, Director Yang, aren't you turning your elbow out? Don't believe my fellow workers in the factory, you must listen to this kid's nonsense here. The people around also began to coax, yes, this kid is picking himself up. Even if he is not a thief, his words are not trustworthy. Look at him, he's just a rural kid, a fish delivery guy who can say something ugly. Little brat, your hair hasn't grown even. It's good not to be scared and wet your pants. Ha ha ha. Laughter erupted for a moment. What if I can really find this thief? He Yongqing's sudden words surprised everyone as they looked at him. Director Zheng and Director Yang almost spoke in unison and asked, can you find it? Everyone's gaze was fixed on the young and handsome face. The premise is that you need to answer a few questions first. He Yongqing turned his head to look at Director Zheng. His words were full of confidence and conviction. Okay, you ask. Director Zheng nodded. Is it certain that the security guard has not left their post, and no one on the night shift has left? Sure. Our people have verified that no one left the factory last night, Director Zheng replied. Director Yang added, Old Zhao, the gatekeeper, is a conscientious person. I dare not say to others that he never rubs sand in his eyes. He is impartial in his actions, and no one can sneak out of the door with smuggled goods under his nose. Moreover, at night, the only way out for the night shift is through his main entrance. It's absolutely impossible to slip out of the gate. He Yongqing nodded slightly and asked again, are there any new signs of trampling and climbing around the courtyard walls around the factory? A small police officer next to Director Zheng answered first, We have checked and found that there are streets outside the 3 walls of the factory. Even at night, people who work night shifts often pass by. There is also wire mesh above the wall height, and there are glass pieces under the wall, without any damage or footprints. Only inside the large wall in the northeast corner, there are scattered footprints, but there are no signs of climbing on the wall or outside. There was a shower last night, and if there were any traces, it would be easy to detect. A few days ago when I was inspecting that place, I found that the steel wire mesh on the wall was broken, and the glass pieces on the wall were also gone. I have a high level of vigilance and a strong sense of prevention, so I just sent someone to fix it before I finished work last night. Li Huaid was afraid that others wouldn't know about his credit, so he immediately spoke loudly. He Yongqing gently raised the corner of his mouth and put a beautiful smile on his face at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. He approached Director Zheng and whispered a few words in his ear. After hearing this, Director Zheng's eyes lit up and he immediately regained his expressionless expression. He loudly said to everyone, "Didn't everyone want to clear the suspicion and go home early? Then listen to my command, everyone extend their hands and pass in front of me." After reading it all, if there's nothing else, everyone can finish work. When the workers hear this, what's going on? Has the director of this police station changed his palm reading? Just looking at your palmistry can wash away suspicion. Although it's a simple matter that I don't understand, everyone is still very cooperative and lined up. Just like when cooking or receiving wages, walk up to Director Zheng in an orderly manner, stretch out your hands, palm up, and let Director Zheng see. Director Zheng sometimes nods his head at a glance and passes by, sometimes takes a few seconds to look carefully, and occasionally extends his hand to grip the opposite hands in front of him. Everyone didn't know what He Yongqing had said to Director Zheng, nor did they know what medicine Director Zheng was selling in this gourd. Seeing that more than half of the people had passed, Director Zheng couldn't help but glance at He Yongqing beside him with his spare light. He Yongqing's face still had that calm expression. He has also been carefully watching every hand that comes over. Director Zheng couldn't help but feel a little regretful in his heart. He was really in a hurry to seek medical treatment. A scout who once saw blood with a bayonet, he retired and became a director from a small police officer. Based on his strength, I have solved countless theft cases, even though they are all small cases of prying locks and sliding doors. To exaggerate, they can be considered as having experienced countless battles. How could I easily believe such a young man's words? If we don't find out anything later and don't let everyone go, it will be easy to get on and off this stage. Chapter 3. Heizi and Monkey. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Director Zheng's Sichuan character on his eyebrows deepened, and the matter had reached this point, so he could only hold on and continue reading. At this moment, the black-faced man who had just shouted the most happily walked over and casually extended his calloused hand. Both He Yongqing and Director Zheng's gaze froze on these hands. Heizi, where did you get the injury on your hand? Director Zheng asked. I have been burning a boiler for 365 days, and I have been injured on my hand for 300 days. This injury was accidentally scratched by the previous one. What's wrong? What's so strange about this? Heizi replied with a nonchalant tone around his neck. That's right, it's him. Suddenly, He Yongqing said decisively. As soon as He Yongqing finished speaking, before Heizi could react, 2 police officers next to Director Zheng twisted his arms, one left and one right. Heizi was taken aback for a moment, and immediately his arms shook hard, causing the 2 police officers to break free. His half-black iron tower-like figure is really beyond the control of ordinary people. Upon seeing the situation, Director Zheng also rushed forward. Heizi waved his 2 iron fists wildly, emitting a whistling wind, and for a moment, none of the 3 could move forward. The people around were so scared that they all retreated to the side. Director Yang saw that Li Huaid and the security personnel were also scared and hiding in the crowd. Heizi waved his hand and shouted loudly, "Why do you police arrest me? Don't think I'm just a boiler burner to bully. Before Heizi could speak again, a figure flashed behind him. As the person lifted his leg, Heizi suddenly softened his knees and knelt on the ground with a thud. Director Zheng and two other police officers rushed forward with the momentum and bound his hands. With a click, a pair of cold silver bracelets were firmly attached. The people who were still in shock finally saw clearly that the agile figure just now was He Yongqing. Director Zheng was patting He Yongqing on the shoulder and said, "Xiao He, your skills are pretty good. I didn't expect you to look thin and still be a trainee. You kicked him on the numb tendon with this kick, it's really accurate and ruthless." Director Yang saw that Heizi was still struggling and swung a stool next to him, hitting him head-on and throwing it at him. With anger in his mouth, he shouted, "You've eaten the bear's heart and leopard's courage. Dare to steal money from the factory. Dare to resist arrest." Heizi was beaten in the head and bleeding, but there was no cowardice on his lips. He still shouted loudly, "If possible, just beat me to death in front of everyone. I, Heizi, have been beaten up since I was young." Director Zheng quickly approached and stopped Director Yang upon seeing the situation. He coldly glanced at Heizi and whispered to Director Yang. "He is someone who cannot be defeated. Even if you kill him, he will not admit it now." Director Zheng, as a veteran police officer, has a lot of experience in this area. At this moment, someone shouted loudly in the crowd, "Director Yang, what's going on here? How could Heizi be mistaken for a thief? Let's make it clear to everyone. Yeah, you can't just say, 'Who is who?' to a young fish seller." The people below began to shout wildly. Director Zheng waved his hand at everyone to signal for silence. "Since we started catching people, of course there is a basis. Let Comrade Xiaohe explain to everyone why Heizi needs to be arrested." Director Zheng's voice is like a bell, his momentum is shocking. Everyone's gaze couldn't help but turn to He Yongqing, and the noise suddenly stopped. The huge venue suddenly became so quiet that even a needle could be heard falling. Even Heizi, who was still rolling just now, stopped moving. He Yongqing slowly spoke up and said, "Generally, the steel bars on anti-theft windows are 6 to 8 millimeters. I asked Director Zheng and learned that the diameter of the steel bars on the skylight in the finance room is 16 millimeters. To break two such thick steel bars in the shortest possible time, it requires not only sharp steel bars, but also hand and arm strength. But no matter how strong his hand is, even if he wears gloves, he cannot quickly break such thick tendons without any harm. Everyone can take a look at his hands at this moment." He Yongqing said that a police officer cooperated and stepped forward to forcefully break open Heizi's right palm behind him. There was a large piece of skin missing from the tiger's mouth on his right hand, revealing a bright red patch. At a glance it was clear that it was a new injury, and the calluses on his palm were also swollen and red. He Yongqing continued, "His palms and outer side of his index finger are worn with calluses, which is consistent with his profession. The boiler worker shall fill the furnace with coal with a shovel every day. The heaviest part of the wooden shovel can only be the middle of the palm and the outside of the index finger. It will grind out calluses, but it won't be worn out. Now the thick calluses in his palms have been worn and swollen, and can only be worn by iron objects. And the tiger's mouth is a new injury. He said his injury was cut the day before yesterday. He's lying." Someone suddenly realized, "Oh. This is something that was broken by pulling too hard. Ah. Did this kid really do it? I remember wrong. I accidentally broke it this morning. Can't you just say that I stole the money just because I injured my hand?" Heizi argued with an unconvinced expression on his face. "Don't rush to explain, let go of the injury on your hand first. Didn't I just mention it? This is a gang crime. Let's invite your accomplices to make a grand appearance at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com." As soon as he spoke, everyone around him became nervous, and the flesh on Heizi's face involuntarily twitched. "Little brother, come on, who is his accomplice?" Someone couldn't help but ask with strong curiosity. Yongqing calmly continued, saying. According to Director Zheng, the skylight in your finance room is only half a meter high, even if Heizi can break 2 steel bars. But his figure doesn't fit in either. So, he must have an accomplice who is under 1.6 meters tall and needs to be very thin and small. Doing such a thing must be related to iron porcelain, such as getting small and having brothers. Isn't this talking about monkeys? Someone blurted out in the crowd. Monkey. He's here. No, it's not me. Why are you catching me? Then there was a commotion in the outermost circle of the crowd. When the 2 policemen rushed over, they saw only 5 or 6 people like overlapping men, with a man with half a face squeezed out at the bottom. 2 police officers dragged the monkey out of the crowd like carrying a chicken. Just now, this kid was speaking for Heizi in the crowd. Monkey, surnamed Ho, looks back to ancient times, nicknamed Monkey. People are like their surname, with sharp-tongued monkey cheeks and a slender figure. They grew up with Heizi from a small bare buttocks, with small iron porcelain hair. Although the monkey was also handcuffed, his mouth was not honest. He kept shouting, "Don't listen to that little brat's nonsense. I'm a good person, not me. It's just an injustice." 2 police officers went over to hold him, one on the left and the other on the right. He kicked his legs randomly, but unfortunately, he was too short and his feet were half a foot off the ground, causing him to feel lonely. Chapter 4. Under heavy rewards, there will be brave men. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When he was brought to Director Zheng and others, Heizi on the ground quickly exchanged a glance with the monkey. Heizi stood up from the ground with 1 bone, and the blood on his head turned his face into a terrifying ghost. He seemed to feel no pain at all, and his voice roared like thunder. To catch a traitor, we need to be double, to catch a thief, we need to be dirty. If we say we stole the money, where is the money? Can you provide evidence to prove that we stole this money? Otherwise, we won't be able to plead guilty. Director Zheng and Director Yang naturally knew in their hearts that if the huge sum of money had already been transferred, they would have formed a joint defense alliance long ago. If they didn't plead guilty, this case would still not be solved. Heizi believed that they couldn't find the dirty money, and that there was no way to deal with the 2 of them, that's why he dared to be so arrogant. Director Yang is in a hurry. In less than an hour, the city leaders will be coming. If we can't pay our wages today, the workers will definitely start making a scene. If we make a scene directly in front of the leader, the chair under his buttocks will become unstable. Whether we can overcome today's hurdle depends on whether this huge sum of money can be found back. It is said that there will always be a brave man under the rewards. As long as the money can be found and the criminal is caught, not only will this turn the tide, but it will also bring glory to oneself. Thinking of this, Director Yang stepped onto the long stool that Director Zheng had just stood on. He shouted to everyone. I officially announce a decision here, no matter who can. Director Yang raised his hand and glanced at the watch on his wrist, saying more seriously, no. It's to be able to retrieve the dirty money within 35 minutes and give a triple reward. The first reward is 1,000 yuan in cash. Although it was still the first currency in circulation during this period, in 55 AD, the first currency was exchanged for the second currency at 10,000.1. For convenience, the currency values mentioned in this book are based on the values of the second currency. Ah! Many people in the onlookers exclaimed in surprise, truly experiencing what it means to drop their chin. 1,000 yuan. You should know that even Director Yang, the leader of the first factory, has a monthly salary of only over 100 now. Ordinary workers usually pay around 30 yuan, while apprentices only pay 17 or 18 yuan. Before people could recover from their surprise, Director Yang continued to loudly announce. The second reward. A special quota for one formal employee, who can choose any position and perform well in an unconventional promotion. He will be transferred to another position after 3 months. After pausing for half a second, Director Yang breathed a sigh of relief, as if adding the largest weight to a balance. Director Yang saw everyone opening their mouths wide with a shocked expression. He pointed 3 fingers at everyone and deliberately paused for a few seconds, then raised his voice a few more degrees. The third reward is a house. Wow. As soon as these words were spoken, the venue immediately boiled up like a frying pan. This reward is also unparalleled in space. It can be said that this huge cash of 1,000 yuan can instantly raise the living standards of a family. The following 2 rewards are meant to change the fate of the family. Who doesn't have any children or family members who want to work in the factory? The succession system only began in 1953. At that time, most women were family members who took care of their children and cooked at home, and dual working families were rare. I don't expect to switch jobs in 3 months, even if I can enter the factory and secure a secure job. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can still get a house. This is like adding the icing on the cake after giving charcoal in the snow. This kind of good thing, the big pie falling from the sky, is clearly right in front of me, but who can catch it? In the auditorium, everything is in chaos, but no one dares to stand out. Director Yang looked at the chaotic crowd below and anxiously asked loudly, "Can anyone find the dirty money?" "Who can?" Suddenly, a voice rang out in the crowd. "I can." This sound, like a thunderbolt in the clear sky, is not so loud, but the weight of these 2 words, making everyone's eyes turn to that person, who is He Yongqing. "Can you?" Director Yang and Director Zheng spoke in unison again. "Yes, I can find money." He Yongqing's resolute tone carried unquestionable confidence. Director Yang's face was now filled with a surprised smile. Director Zheng, on the other hand, furrowed his brows as he was quite adept at analyzing the case just now. But investigating the dirty money is not something that can be easily imagined with just a slap in the head. Although there must be brave men among all the rewards, they are just brave men. Brave men are the first and foremost, but many brave men have no plans. It is said that one person hides things, but 1,000 people find them hard. Just now, seeing the performance of Heizi and Monkey, I knew that these 2 people had already reached a joint defense alliance. Such a large amount of theft, if not sentenced to death, would still be indefinite. However, as long as the dirt cannot be found and they bite themselves to death without stealing, then this case cannot be solved. Director Yang can't afford to worry so much now, as long as the money can be found back. What about black and white cats? As long as they can catch mice, they are good cats. He quickly said to He Yongqing, "Xiao He, as long as you find the dirty money, the triple prize I promised earlier will be fulfilled immediately. And from now on, you are the biggest leader in this factory, even I have to obey your orders. You can investigate as you say, but the prerequisite is that you must retrieve the money within half an hour, no matter how broad-minded Director Zheng is." Seeing Director Yang setting himself aside now inevitably makes him feel a bit uncomfortable. Negative energy from Zheng Yi +2. He first loudly ordered his subordinates to take Heizi and the monkey back to the police station. Then he said to He Yongqing, "Young man, don't be fooled by the big prize at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Let's leave this matter to our police." He Yongqing suddenly said to Director Zheng, "If we don't find the money in time now, we're afraid they still have accomplices and will take advantage of the situation to transfer the money out." One sentence gave Director Zheng that. Yeah. Just now when He Yongqing analyzed the case, he said that it was a gang that committed the crime, and it is highly likely that there are more than just these 2 people. A leader will come to inspect the work soon, and workers who commute to and from work will also have to enter and exit the factory. In this situation, there may be mistakes. Once the lockdown is lifted, if there really is an accomplice who takes the opportunity to transfer the dirty money, and these 2 arrested people refuse to admit it again, then this case will be handled as a hostage. Upon hearing this, young Changchang became anxious and said, Lao Zheng, shall he helped us catch someone? I believe he can also find the stolen money. Time is tight now, and there is no time to delay. Even if a dead horse treats him as a living horse doctor, let shall he give it a try. Director Zheng nodded helplessly and said to He Yongcheng, okay. Then let's give it a try. You can tell me, where is the money? How can I find it? Young Changchang turned his head and ordered several people from the security department, you guys, they all chatter and chatter. I used soldiers for a while every day, but when it came to the critical time, I turned into a shrinking turtle. It really humiliated me. Now you all follow Xiaohe's command, do whatever he asks you to do. The guards on duty who were scared by Heizi and hid in the crowd just now all walked over with their heads down and stood in front of He Yongcheng with their hands down. Li Huaid also squeezed in from outside at this moment, and he loudly said to He Yongcheng, Comrade Xiaohe, please speak quickly. Where is the money hidden? I will take someone to find it immediately. A posture of rubbing hands and taking the lead. Chapter 5. The bigger the storm, the more expensive the fish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, please call the people from the finance department over. He Yongcheng suddenly said. Director Yang has now placed all his treasure on this young man. After hearing He Yongcheng's words, he paused for a moment, but immediately shouted loudly into the crowd, Chief Xiao. A thin and small old man with a pair of black-framed myopia glasses ran over trembling. This is Zhao, the head of the finance department in our factory, and he was also the first one to arrive on site, Director Yang introduced. Director Zhao, let me ask you a question. How much money was lost this time? He Yongcheng said succinctly. Chief Xiao was still in shock, with fine beads of sweat hanging on his forehead. He wiped away the sweat from his forehead and habitually used his hand to support one of his legs with glasses glued with white tape. He answered seriously. The total is 197,624 yuan and 65 cents. Today is the day for salary payment, and this month there is a portion of subsidies for disadvantaged households, as well as some working capital. The current Red Star steel rolling plant has not yet expanded to a large factory with only over 6,000 people, and at that time, the average worker's salary was less than 30 yuan. So much money. He Yongcheng now understood why Director Yang had invested so much money. However, that's also good. The bigger the storm, the more expensive the fish are. Hee. Director Yang thought that He Yongcheng didn't understand why there was so much cash in the factory, so he quickly added. Today is the day when our factory pays wages, because there are too many workers. The finance department always withdraws money one day in advance. Divide the money according to each workshop, and the accountant from each workshop will collect it the next morning, so as to ensure that the workers can pay their wages before they finish work. At this moment, Chief Xiao muttered in a low voice, yes, it's like this every month. This kind of thing has never happened before. Director Yang angrily cursed, you're still looking forward to you being stolen. Chief Xiao was frightened and quickly closed his mouth. He Yongcheng frowned slightly and asked Director Zhao, do you still remember how many denominations of these money are each? He Yongcheng's question left everyone confused, understanding how much money was lost. But why do we need to know how many denominations there are? Director Zhao was also confused when asked. He pulled off his glasses, which were covered in sweat and mist, and wiped them with the corner of his clothes while pondering, answering. Every time the salary is sent to the finance department, I will check the amount with the accountant. In this money, there are 100,000 yuan for 10 yuan, another 90,000 yuan for 5 yuan, and the remaining 4,000 yuan for 2 yuan and 3,001 yuan, because many workers do not have change on their bodies, they cannot change their wages and can only withdraw a lot of change from the bank. The whole money for 2 large safes. Now there are only some minimum denominations left. Comrade, why are you asking this? Perhaps those who work in finance have some occupational diseases, but Director Zhao is meticulous and has some girlish thoughts. Director Yang on the side immediately shouted and rebuked, "Didn't you hear what I just said? Now Xiaohe is the highest leader of the entire factory. What does he ask you? Just answer truthfully." Chief Zhao trembled with fear, and beads of sweat slipped off his forehead. He immediately smiled uncontrollably and nodded. What Director Yang said was, "Comrade Xiaohe, I'll answer whatever you ask." But as he spoke, his eyes dared not look at He Yongqing. He Yongqing did not have a conversation between Director Yang and Director Zhao, he seemed to be muttering to himself. 10,000 yuan, 90.5 thousand yuan, and 4,002 yuan, 3,001 yuan. Everyone dared not speak and looked at He Yongqing. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said, "The money is still in the factory." Director Yang immediately exclaimed excitedly, "Great. As long as the money hasn't left the factory yet, it's easy to handle." "Comrade Xiaohe, where is the money?" Director Zheng, with both hands in his pockets, still has no idea in his mind. He wants to see how this kid finds the dirty money. He Yongqing said to Director Yang, "Find some people with good physical strength, take the shovel and go with me." Upon hearing this, Director Yang waved his hand and immediately saw 6 or 7 burly workers. "Where are we going?" Director Yang couldn't help but ask as soon as he left. "Take me to the boiler room." He Yongqing replied. "What about the boiler room?" "There's no need to go then. Just now, when Heizi was arrested, I took someone to search in his boiler room. There's nothing, even the monkey workshop I've searched for, there's nothing." Li Huaid, who had been following them all along, stopped in his tracks with a disappointed tone. Director Yang was amazed in his heart that Li Huaida's action was fast enough. If he had just found dirty money, he would have taken the credit for it. The few people following behind also stopped, but He Yongqing did not stop. Just like not hearing what Li Huaid said. Director Yang glared fiercely at Li Huaid and quickly caught up with He Yongqing. Li Huaida's eyes narrowed into a slit, he didn't believe that today's triple prize could really be snatched by this fish seller. For these 3 major awards, he not only wants profits, but also fame. Don't look at this kid helping them catch Heizi and the monkey, as long as he can find this dirty money today, the biggest credit will be his. In front of the leaders who will come to inspect later, he will show his face and make a name for himself by contacting Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. He not only has the small ambition of being supported by the workshop director, but also has a great ambition, which is to become the leader of the factory. The factory director. Just now, he was closely monitoring the situation here. When Heizi and the monkey were caught, others were watching the commotion, and he immediately went with a few confidants to search the place where these 2 people worked, but found nothing. He really wants to see how capable this kid surnamed He is. He hasn't even found it yet, can he find it? He also quickly chased after him and the group arrived at the door of the boiler room. There are several piles of coal and several piles of waste coal slag piled up in front of the boiler room door. The stove in the boiler room is burning vigorously, with a heat wave hitting people. Except for some garbage and debris, everything is empty and invisible. He Yongqing looked around and walked out, starting to examine the coal piles and coal slag. Director Yang closely followed behind He Yongqing and said, "Xiao He, everyone has brought their hands. You can tell me which coal pile the money is hidden in. I'll let them start digging now." Li Huaid sneered in his heart, as he had already checked this place before when he brought someone over. Because it rained just last night, both the coal and the top of the coal slag pile were wet, and it was easy to tell without flipping over. Besides, this is over 10,000 yuan, and the boiler worker is also on a shift system. Heizi also has to hand over his shift early this morning. If hidden in this coal pile or slag, it is easy to be discovered by the next boiler worker, so money cannot be hidden here. But he doesn't want to say it, he just wants to see this kid's joke. In another 20 minutes, the inspecting leader is about to arrive. The fire cannot be wrapped in paper, and when the workers make a fuss, the show is about to begin. Chapter 6. Does he have perspective eyes? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. He Yongqing reached out and stopped the workers who were about to excavate. The messy coal slag, as well as these several small hills of coal, would take some time to dig through. He bent down and carefully observed around the coal piles and cinders. Director Zheng walked over and followed behind him, also looking carefully, but no matter how he looked, he didn't notice anything unusual. There was a hint of wisdom between He Yongqing's slightly furrowed eyebrows, and he couldn't understand what the young man was thinking. He Yongqing looked around these coal piles and slag and shook his head. Director Yang, who had been following him all along, couldn't hold his breath anymore. He kept lifting his wrist to look at the watch, and there were less than 20 minutes left. Xiaohe, isn't the money in the boiler room? He asked tentatively. He Yongqing straightened his waist and did not answer Director Yang's question. He looked around and suddenly saw a pile of coal slag falling from behind the boiler room, which made his brow furrow. He ran over quickly, with a group following closely behind. This pile of coal slag is obviously fresh from the furnace, which is also normal because the boiler worker needs to transport the waste coal slag from the boiler room for the day before handing over. He Yongqing stopped halfway around the half-person high slag. He loudly ordered with one finger of his hand. Just here, let's do it. Several workers with shovel immediately rolled their arms, rolled their sleeves, spit in their hands, and shovel flew up and down. Director Yang and Director Zheng stared closely at the place where the workers were digging, but they saw that the coal slag had already bottomed out and did not find anything. Li Huaid rubbed his hands and pretended to be anxious, saying, "Xiaohe, you've dug all this up and haven't seen any money. It's not like you made a mistake in your judgment, is it?" Director Yang frowned into a big lump and looked at He Yongqing with concern and anticipation. He Yongqing asked for a shovel from a worker and watched the black ground bare after all the cinders were removed. He turned his shovel upside down and beat it on the ground. Director Yang was about to come forward to inquire, but was stopped by Director Zheng. He seemed to understand He Yongqing's purpose and signaled everyone to remain silent. After a sudden pause, He Yongqing forcefully struck the ground several times before firmly saying, "Keep digging here." A few workers rushed up and quickly dug up the soil on top. Just as they dug a few more times, they suddenly made a sound of metal impact. Someone exclaimed excitedly, "There's something down there." Under a thick steel plate, there is actually a deep hole, half the height of a person. A worker leaned forward and struggled to pull out two large bags made of oilcloth. Director Zheng stepped forward and tore off the tied rope. Upon opening it, he saw piles of money inside. Director Yang excitedly took He Yongqing's hand and said, "Xiaohe, you're really amazing. You've been a big help to me." The several security personnel who had been following all along now showed their abilities and approached to surround the two large bags of money, shouting loudly to the workers who were working to stay away. Director Zheng walked over and nodded with a smile, "Xiaohe, could you tell me how you determined that the money was here? Why do you dare to conclude that the money is still in the factory after you asked Director Zhao how much money he has and what denominations it is?" Li Huaid also surrounded him, and now he's scratching his head but still hasn't figured it out. How could this fish seller know that the money is under this pile of coal slag? Does he have a perspective? He Yongqing smiled slightly and said, "Firstly, based on their inability to take the money out of the gate. Just now, when I asked Director Zhao about the denominations of the money, I calculated that it should be at least about 50 kilograms. And their volume, they need to be 2 big bags full, otherwise there won't be any change left in the safe. They should be prepared with 2 hands. The first is to throw the money out of the wall and have someone outside to pick it up. If there are only 2 people, Heizi and Monkey, you can also throw the money out first and go to pick it up after work in the morning. The place where they choose to throw money must be a place that few people pass by, and they also need to destroy the wire mesh and glass sheets on the wall in advance. However, human calculations are not as good as sky calculations. I didn't expect that this place was repaired just last night. It was the leader's vigilance and action that led to their first plan falling through. When Li Huaid heard this, a proud smile immediately appeared on his face, pulling his waist straight and his chest high. But everyone's attention was focused on He Yongqing, and no one even looked at him. Negative energy from Li Huaid increased by 80. He Yongqing continued, "It has to be said that these two people are brave and strategic, and this must have been planned for a long time. Bidding for such a large amount of theft. A mistake is a life steal, a life flower." So they also made a second-hand preparation, which is that if the money cannot be shipped out, it can only be placed in a safe place. Find another opportunity to ship it out in the future, or divide it into parts and transfer it out in batches. So I came to the conclusion that the money is still in the factory. The money must have been hidden in some place in the factory that they consider very safe. If you say a monkey is just an apprentice, then he won't hide money in the workshop where there are many people in different hands. They will not hide in a place beyond their control in the factory. This large volume is too eye-catching and cannot be accommodated in a small space. The only one left is Heizi's boiler room, where he is the only one who usually works. It's much more convenient to do things. Upon hearing this, Li Huaid couldn't help but ask, "I also thought that Heizi might hide the money in the boiler room. But there are so many places here, with coal piles and coal slag piled up in dozens of sizes. Zhaoshuyuan.com How could you just assume at a glance that the money would be under this pile of coal slag?" Li Huaid asked everyone the questions they wanted to know, and everyone waited quietly for He Yongqing's answer. "Firstly, I observed the piles of coal because they were high and the boiler workers were accustomed to using them from the nearest location to the door. So the coal pile only has traces of movement in that direction, and money cannot be hidden in such a prominent place. This coal pile is very high, it is impossible to excavate from below and maintain the overall shape unchanged. In addition, it rained yesterday, and the traces of flipping over are easily noticeable. So, it's impossible to hide money under the coal pile. That's all there is in this coal slag, but you see, coal slag can be stacked in front of the boiler room. Why do we have to lean towards the back of the house when such a convenient place is not piled up?" At this point, many people had already realized it, nodding incessantly and looking at He Yongqing with surprise and admiration in their eyes. But Director Zheng still frowned. Amidst the admiration of everyone, Director Zheng suddenly asked, "Xiao He, even what you said makes sense. Anyway, it's also digging a hole, but why didn't Heizi dig a hole ahead of time under the coal slag that he could see as soon as he looked up? Didn't you say that? Throw far and bury near, relatively speaking, this doorway is closer and it's also convenient to keep an eye on." With a meaningful smile, He Yongqing leaned in Director Zheng's ear and whispered, "Director Zheng, I believe you can understand this question. Maybe you can also try to figure it out, and..." He Yongqing whispered a few words in Director Zheng's ear. Director Zheng nodded incessantly before suddenly slapping his forehead and saying, "Ah. Ah. I understand." Chapter 7. Robbing People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, he patted He Yongqing's shoulder and said excitedly, "Good kid. What kind of fish seller are you? You're just a born detective. How about considering becoming a police officer at our police station?" Upon hearing this, Director Yang next to him stepped forward and pulled He Yongqing over. "Director Zheng, I don't want someone like you to openly snatch people. Now Xiaohe is a great contributor to our factory, and he is now a formal worker in our factory. Li Huaid. You can arrange for Xiaohe to stay for lunch now and have Lao He cook 2 hard dishes, just say what I said. Can you accompany Xiaohe and have a good drink for me? If it weren't for an important leader coming to the factory to inspect the work immediately, I would definitely have personally sat with him. Ha ha ha. Upon hearing that Director Yang never mentioned the bonus, He Yongqing spoke up. Thank you, Director Yang. I won't eat the meal anymore. If I don't see you at home, I will definitely be anxious. How about you have the finance department cash in the bonus first? As for the onboarding procedures and the house, Director Yang's promise is priceless, I don't have to worry at all. I'll go home today and make arrangements, and report back to the factory immediately tomorrow the case has been solved and the money has been found. The most urgent thing for Director Yang now is to go to the factory gate to welcome the leaders who are coming to inspect. He first wanted to use an excuse to support Li Huaid and assign him to arrange for He Yongqing's affairs, so that he couldn't get away from the leader who came today. Li Huaid always makes Director Yang feel that he is both a talent and a hidden danger. At that moment, as soon as he found the money, he felt a bit impulsive about the promise of the triple prize. Such a large expenditure of funds is not only painful, but most importantly, it requires reporting to the higher authorities to explain its purpose and destination. Not only is it difficult to cover up the occurrence of major cases, but also due to improper management, there may be mild cases of self-criticism and severe cases of criticism. I was thinking of waiting until the important matter at hand was resolved, and then using some methods to see if I could discount this reward. To deal with an inexperienced rural boy, say a few empty words of praise and draw a few big cakes. At most, one entry quota will be dismissed. What he didn't expect was that He Yongqing reacted even faster than him. His words were natural and easy to say, and his demands were also reasonable. Once the triple prize is realized, one cannot be missing, and the prize must be immediately redeemed. Negative energy from Yang Jigang plus 92. During Director Yang's hesitation, Director Zheng suddenly stepped forward and grabbed He Yongqing in a grabbing manner. What's going on? The Grand Factory Director wants to go back on his word. If he doesn't want to cash in on the prize money, then let me have Xiao He. This kind of talent comes out every 500 years. I'll go back and report to the bureau now. I can guarantee that Xiaohe will be able to put on his police uniform tomorrow. Upon seeing this, Director Yang pulled He Yongqing back with a furious expression on his face and said loudly. I, Yang Jigang, have always kept my promises to the fullest. Moreover, Xiaohe has recovered huge losses for our factory and made great contributions, deserving of the triple prize. Li Huaid, take Xiaohe to the finance department to find Director Zhao and cash out Xiaohe's bonus now. Complete the onboarding procedures immediately. Arrange the house immediately. Director Yang turned his head to look at He Yongqing, as if he had changed his face in Sichuan opera and put on a friendly and amiable smile. Xiaohe, a day is too rushed. How about this? I'll give you 3 days off, go back and arrange your family's affairs, and then report back to the factory. At this moment, the people around me felt collectively sour. This is really a ticket, a house, and a job in one step. Envy is there, jealousy is even greater. Negative energy from Zhao Erju increased by 12, negative energy from Chen Xingli increased by 15. In fact, Director Zheng knew that he couldn't even compete with Director Yang. He was trying to defeat Director Yang's army. Let's not talk about my own small police station, which cannot provide huge funds or housing. Not to mention giving someone a formal position, such a big deal is not something that he alone can handle. He really thinks He Yongqing is a rare criminal investigation talent, and he really hopes to have He Yongqing as a capable soldier. This young man is really not simple. He not only knows what to do, but also has a more professional level of reconnaissance than an old police officer like him. The most important thing is that he also knows how to leave a way for others. So far, this case has been a success for everyone, but the credit is all from He Yongqing. Director Zheng felt a bit embarrassed, but this young man gave himself a chance to make great contributions at the end. Zhaoshuyuan.com. So, Director Zheng's eyes at this moment were filled with regret as he increasingly liked He Yongqing and couldn't grab his hand. He pretended to be magnanimous and said, "Xiao He, since Director Yang is so loving and trustworthy, I have to endure the pain and give up. But if one day you want to become a police officer, you must come to me. I welcome you to join our team at any time. Alright, I also need to go back to the office and quickly obtain the confession. Let's all disperse now. Speaking, take someone away." Others are still unsatisfied, especially what He Yongqing and Director Zheng said just now. Why does it seem like there is still a story inside? Seeing Director Zheng leaving with his subordinates like this. This is too appetizing. Li Huaid approached and affectionately pulled He Yongqing, like an old friend, leading him towards the office building while passionately chatting. "Xiaohe, my name is Li Huaid and I am the workshop director of the third workshop in the factory." Li Huaid hates it the most when someone insists on adding a subtitle in front of his workshop director. "Hello Director Li, please take good care of me in the future," He Yongqing replied politely. "Xiaohe, today you have made a remarkable achievement. I am the most talented person. How about you come to our third workshop? With me here, rest assured that you can choose the type of work. Master, you can choose." Li Huaid really likes this young man from the bottom of his heart, even though he initially felt that he had taken the limelight and held a grudge against him. He even thought about giving him a chance to wear small shoes when he entered the factory. But the scene where this kid easily grasped Director Yang just now made him open his eyes. The struggle of this leadership has existed since ancient times. Handshake on the upper body, embrace, hello guys. Lower body top belly, kick the block, and stab behind the back. Chapter 8. The Stolen Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It seems that this kid is really a rare talent. We must lure him into our own camp. The opponent's opponent is a comrade in arms, so Li Huaid was instantly healed of his inner trauma and turned enemies into friends. "Director Li, thank you for your flattery. I am just a rural person, even though the factory has given me such a good opportunity. But I am very self-aware. I have an elderly grandmother and an underage sister in my family, and I need to go home often to see them. So, I want to do a job that allows me some free time. I wonder if there is a position like this." Li Huaid listened and squinted his eyes, thinking for a few seconds before lowering his voice and pretending to be mysterious, saying, "Xiaohe, if you go to our cafeteria to deliver fish, you can definitely become a purchaser for our factory, so that you can go home in good faith. Working hours are also free, and you don't have to work shifts. This position is a fat job. Don't worry, as long as I say something, I guarantee you can become this purchaser, hehe." He Yongqing was delighted that this was exactly the job he wanted. "After completing the onboarding procedures, I am fully satisfied with food and drink." Carrying a thick stack of banknotes, He Yongqing walked out of the gate of the Red Star steel rolling plant and smiled. Yes. He Yongqing is a traveler. Unlike most internet articles where interlocutors are often referred to as 90s or even post-.2000s. He Yongqing's predecessor was a post.70s generation. 3 sentences can summarize one's life as a chicken feather. A poor childhood, a sorrowful youth, and a painful middle age. I missed the stock market frenzy because I didn't understand, and the real estate frenzy because I didn't have money. The college entrance examination, which involves thousands of troops crossing a single wooden bridge, has led to a wave of layoffs after the reform, and the cancellation of the housing allocation system. Finally, we caught up with the delay in retirement. Unable to compete with my father, unable to move my child, I passed the 35-year-old hurdle in the job application. Up there is old, down there is small, and everything can become the last straw that breaks the camel. Finally, on his way home from being forced to work overtime until early in the morning, he suddenly turned black in front of him. When you open your eyes again, you have come to this era. Age: 18 years old. Identity: He Jiatsuan, the eldest son of He Lao San, who has an outstanding appearance but has been weak and sickly since childhood. There is an older sister above, He Xiaoling, who has already married far away. There is also a younger sister named He Xiaofeng below. The age difference between siblings is a whopping 9 years, because the mother was also pregnant with 2 children between him and his sister. Due to malnutrition, they never lived past the age of 3 after birth. In rural areas, having more sons makes one's waist stronger. So He Yongqing's family belongs to a vulnerable group in the village. In addition, his father He Laosan was a loyal, honest, and quiet farmer. Mother Zhao Guilan has a tough personality, kind but not weak. The previous generation had 3 brothers from the He family, but no sisters. In earlier years, Mr. He entered the city of Beijing to sell peanuts and was favored by the owner of a small tavern. The owner also had the surname He and had no children, only a daughter. His ancestors passed down a small tavern and it was located in the alleyway of Daqianmen. The old boss, seeing that Mr. He has a simple and honest face and is also from his own family, intends to invite him into the company. Being able to transform from a poor boy to a young master without changing one's surname, the He family is certainly willing to do so. So boss He transformed and became a city resident, becoming the young shopkeeper of the He family's small tavern. It's just that the sky doesn't go according to people's wishes. After getting married, the old shopkeeper and his wife's eyes turned green as they hoped for their grandson, and their daughter's belly never bulged. But the 2 brothers under Mr. He's family both have children and daughters. This clearly indicates that the problem lies with one's own daughter. The old couple secretly visited famous doctors, and the backyard of the small tavern was often overshadowed by the aroma of traditional Chinese medicine. But it wasn't until the day the old shopkeeper's couple passed away that they didn't have a grandson. Now Mr. He is almost 60 years old, and his wife also died the year before last. Although the tavern has earned a rich fortune, its own body and bones are not in use day by day. He had to think of finding a way to support himself in his old age. Fat and water do not flow into the fields of outsiders, and Mr. He thought of his 2 younger brothers. I want to choose one of their 2 sons to adopt for myself. The first 3 of He Lao's family were all girls, until they finally gave birth to a son named He Yongqiang, who was 2 years younger than He Yongqing. Since his eldest brother entered the city, He Lao took the opportunity to propose a separation. He also decided on a family separation plan with one sentence, citing that his eldest brother would become the eldest son in the family after being married. 3 main rooms belonged to him, 1.5 dilapidated Western-style rooms, and an elderly woman are all packed and returned to the 3rd family. The older brother, who has been away for many years, suddenly returns and has to choose a child from both families to adopt. If you can enter, become the young master and become the shopkeeper in the future. Inheriting a unique courtyard and inheriting a family-owned tavern, without changing one's surname, is truly a blessing. At first glance, boss He was attracted to He Yongqing from the 3rd family. After 3 days, let He Yongqing enter the city. For some unknown reason, He Yongqing suddenly had diarrhea and couldn't get up. He Lao secretly sent his son into the city and even told his elder brother that He Yongqing was a sick seedling. He calculated with Wu Shenpa, who jumped the god at the east end of the village, that He Yongqing and He Lauda had hit a foul. He also said that He Yongqing hit the belt with evil energy and is a short-lived ghost. Recognizing him will definitely damage Yang Shou, and if not, he will have to send the white-haired person to the black-haired person. Upon hearing that it was important to save his life, boss He took the opportunity to recognize He Yongqiang as his son. Even more outrageous is that since He Yongqiang entered the city, He Lao built a high earthen wall between the 2 families. I'm afraid my younger brother and his family will come to take advantage of their family. The sound of chickens and dogs can be heard, but they do not communicate with each other in old age and death. Still proud in the village, they said that in the future, their whole family will go to the city to enjoy a peaceful life with their son. He Yongqing traveled through the original owner's serious illness. In the fusion of information from 2 lifetimes, he also saw that it was He Yongqiang who, at the command of his father, secretly poured laxatives into his water. By the time he recovers from his illness, the dust in the city will have settled long ago. Zhaozuiyuan.com He Yongqing belongs to Soul Wearing, and after living in this new home for a year, he finally came across the standard features of a traveler. System and space. The space is a bit cramped. It's not something he has seen in various cool articles. He can grow vegetables and raise chickens. You can easily enjoy the fragrance of fruits and vegetables, with cows and sheep filling the circle, achieving freedom in meat, eggs, milk, and vegetables. His space is the literal meaning, a true space. It's just an empty room with nothing to do. Even when mice come in, they have to wipe their tears and walk away. At first it was only 3 cubic meters in size, but fortunately, this space automatically grew larger over time. The growth rate is slow, it has been more than a month, and it has increased by less than 1 square. Fortunately, this space has a characteristic that any item stored within its allowed volume will always exist in its original state when it appears. When in use, there is no need for fingerprints or facial recognition, making it unique and easy to access. After storing any item, it should be private, safe, permanently fresh, and not cross-flavored. As for the system, it's even more convenient. It's not a sign-in lottery with fingers, nor is it a supermarket. But it's a kind of experience value similar to that of a game's idle controller. As long as one focuses on a certain aspect, they can increase their relevant knowledge and abilities. However, the speed is slow, and the progress bar is like a turtle's speed. Moreover, multiple skills cannot be suspended at the same time, and the growth rate will only be faster during practical operation. With the mentality of listening to fate and wearing it more, one can rest assured. Better than nothing, what else do you need a bicycle for? He Yongqing optimistically thought that with an 18-year-old body and 70 years of life experience, even without a golden finger, he could still live a prosperous life. Rebirth, happiness is paramount. This is his lifelong purpose. Chapter 9. Money is the king. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Chapter 9. Money is the way. He Yongqing was the first to use this system and learned how to fish. Meat stars are hardly seen on the table at home every day for almost half a year. It's easy for adults to say that their 80-year-old grandmother and 9-year-old sister are old and young, with a withered and yellow complexion. Xiaofang's braids are thin and yellow, like 2 kitten tails. At first, due to immature technology, I could only catch a few small fish to make soup. With the continuous improvement of this skill, He Yongqing can catch several big fish every day. Not only can it make a family eat live fish, but it can also be sold in the city for some money. He uses his accumulated memory from watching short videos when he has nothing to do, and at night he hangs up to learn the 8th-section brocade when he falls asleep. In the morning, go to the small forest at the village head to practice for a while. Holding the Tianli triple jiao with both hands, arched from left to right like shooting eagles, to regulate the spleen and stomach, it is necessary to lift it up one by one. Looking back after the 5 pains and 7 injuries, shake your head and tail to dispel the heat in your heart, climb your feet and strengthen your kidneys and waist with both hands, accumulate fists, anger and eyes increase strength, and the 7 bumps and 100 illnesses behind disappear. A set of 8th-section brocade has been playing for less than 2 months, and He Yongqing's body has undergone a qualitative change. He Yongqing even hangs up and throws darts, occasionally hitting a few sparrows with stones. Sparrows are small, even the smallest flies are meat. Throw them into a stove with residual heat and bake them. If the head is too small, it is easy to burn and can only eat the chest and thighs, the size of the nail plate, but with a chewy and scorching aroma. Grandma couldn't move her teeth, and Xiaofang could always eat with her eyes lit up. He Yongqing had 52 years of life experience and 2 major hobbies in his past life. Relieve stress by watching cool articles, and enhance brain function by watching suspense dramas. At present, there are no mobile phones or televisions, and the long night is long. I have to rely on reminiscing about the criminal investigation dramas I have watched before to pass my bedtime, and the system automatically hangs up. So useless knowledge skyrocketed, and I didn't expect to use this skill today. The triple prize is a surprise, and today he has another surprise. That's when everyone suspects that he stole the money. A metallic sound suddenly rang out in He Yongqing's mind. The negative energy collection system was activated. Turns out I still have a potential system activated. I don't know if it's because in the village, people's hearts are still pure and negative energy is too low, which is why this system has not been activated. Today, so many people, in order to protect themselves, want to blame He Yongqing for this big black pot. Suddenly, the overwhelming negative energy aligned with him. After the system was activated, a transparent colored ball appeared in front of He Yongqing. The more excited those people were, the more vicious their words were, and the more negative energy they output. The ball will continue to expand, grow bigger, and its colors will become more and more brilliant. When the accumulated value reached 1000, the ball suddenly exploded. Like colorful fireworks, something suddenly appeared in his space. A bag of milk powder. The packaging is simple, and it turns out that the brand has long been discontinued, which is a luxury item that He Yongqing yearned for in his past life. In his childhood memories, he never drank milk powder at all, only found a bag that someone else had thrown away. The scent he smelled by sticking his nose into the bag made him swear that when he grew up, he would definitely taste what the things here tasted. If you become wealthy, buy 2 bags at once, drink 1 bag, and sprinkle 1 bag. Is this gift meant to fulfill one's past regrets and dreams? There are many people and things in this factory, so negative energy is definitely easy to collect. This morning it reached 1972. After the colored ball exploded, it automatically decreased by 1000, leaving 972. This is equivalent to collecting a full 1000 points of negative energy and opening a blind box once. Even if you have a huge sum of 1000 yuan now, there will always be a time when the money is spent. With this negative energy collection, it would be different. As long as you collect this low-cost negative energy, you can continuously open blind boxes and have surprises. In his old days, he used to say that the urban routine was deeper than going back to the countryside. Now, he is going to go back to the right path, to besiege the city in the countryside. Knowing that there are tigers on the mountain, lean towards the tiger mountain. Now that I have such a huge sum of money in my pocket, I have confidence. When will money be the king's way? He Yongqing has decided to go to happy shopping first. I bought a bottle of eye medicine for my grandmother at the pharmacy. It is said that the eldest son, grandson, and wife are the lifeblood of He Yongqing, and his grandmother has loved him the most since childhood. Grandma said that when He Yongqing was born, he was even younger than a kitten and couldn't even cry as loudly as a kitten. My mother gave birth to him without any milk, so she had to go down to the ground to cook and do farm work before she could finish her confinement. It was his grandmother who carried him in her arms every day, boiled the eggs that were given to her at home, and stirred the yolks into a paste to feed him alive. In recent years, my grandmother's eyes have become increasingly blurred, and she always sheds tears in the wind. I went to the grocery store again and cut 5 pounds of meat, with a large string of 5 flowers and 3 layers on a hemp rope. You don't need a ticket to buy things now, as long as you have money. I went to the cloth counter at the department store again, where I asked for 5 meters each for broken flowers and blue fabric. The salesperson with a tape measure around his neck asked 3 times before he was sure he had heard it correctly. Stepping out of the department store and turning around, everything was thrown into the space. He Yongqing stood with light hands and sharp feet in a crowd of people waiting for cars, a bit unconventional. Coming to the city is entirely based on luck. If you encounter someone who is good at speaking, you can take a ride in a bull cart or carriage along the way. I can't get a ride on my back, so I have to walk for more than 10 miles. It's almost always dark to get home. It's still bright today, and Yongqing has arrived at the village. Just as he was approaching his doorstep, the item he had bought today appeared in his hand. Unexpectedly, I ran into Lauer, who had just left the gate, at zhaoshuyuan.com. After his son entered the city, Lauer immediately cut off contact with their family. Even during the Chinese New Year and holidays, he didn't even take a glance at his mother, afraid of being stuck. Every time I encounter Yongqing, I look up and turn a blind eye. Yongqing, why buy so much meat in this festive year? Lauer's eyes were fixed on the big and small package in his hand. Especially the large strip of pork belly strung with a hemp rope, my eyes lit up with green light. Oh! Today I sold a good price for a fish, bought some meat, and had braised pork belly in brown sauce tonight. Yongqing deliberately slid the meat in his hand slowly past Lauer. You child is also too good at living, can you call it some meat? So much that your family can't eat at once, on such a hot day, it's not bad. This is called a loser. Coincidentally, Uncle Air's family hasn't eaten yet and is still hungry. How about Uncle Air helping you share half of it? Lauer rarely showed a smiling face. You won't have to worry about this anymore. When we split up, you didn't say it yourself. If we split up, we won't be one family anymore. In the future, life and death are destined, wealth and fortune are in heaven, and old age and death do not interact with each other. Hungry to drink water, craving to gasp. I want your son in the city to buy you meat. After speaking, he carried the meat into his own courtyard door. The smile on Lauer's face immediately turned into an angry expression. He spat at Yongqing's back and said fiercely. Bah! Isn't it just some meat? I'm not rare. Be careful when eating, don't choke to death. From Lauer, negative energy increases by 28, not much, positive, good. The colored ball exploded again. Chapter 10. Proposal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, brother, you're back. Xiaofang was the first to burst out upon hearing the voice. Seeing my brother holding a bunch of things in his hand, he was suddenly stunned. Xiaofang, eat braised pork belly tonight, and my brother will send you to school tomorrow. After dinner, let my mother make a new school bag for you first. Yongqing raised the meat in his hand, as well as the flour cloth rolled into a ball by half a yellow paper. In rural areas, it is common to prioritize sons over daughters. The eldest sister has never attended school and gets married before the age of 18. In order to receive the dowry money to support Yongqing until middle school, my younger sister reached school age last year. Not to mention tuition fees, I don't even have the money to buy books. Many girls in the village don't go to school. Xiaofang is sensible and never makes a fuss about going to school, but every day she sits at the door staring blankly at the backs of those school children. What? Brother. Are you saying, I can go to school? And a new backpack? Xiaofang's eyes were originally fixed on the meat, but as soon as she heard the word school, she immediately stared at Yongqing excitedly and asked. Upon hearing the commotion, Zhao Guilin also walked out. She was also startled by what Yongqing was holding in his hand and asked incredulously. Yongqing, where did these things come from? Mom, my fish sold for a good price today. I bought some meat and fabric. I made a new piece of clothing for the whole family. Negative energy from Lauer plus 31. Yongqing chuckled inwardly, and as expected, the walls had ears. You child, even if you earn some money, you can't spend it like this. Save some money to get you a good wife. Buying so many things. Sigh. I really don't know how expensive firewood and rice are without being in charge of my family. Zhao Guilin couldn't stop complaining, but her heart was sweet. My son missed the opportunity to become a young master in the city and fell seriously ill again. The whole family is worried that if he recovers from his illness, he will be unable to take it seriously. Unexpectedly, after the child recovered from his illness, it felt like he had undergone a complete transformation. Not only can I speak better than before, but I also love to talk and laugh. His body and bones have become much harder, and he works in the field more decently than an old master like his father. If you have nothing to do, go fishing in the river. Who doesn't know how to find a way to eat some free meat these days? People can run on the mountain, fly in the sky, swim in the water, and anyone who can eat anything will try their best to get it. Because of this, the wild rabbits are almost extinct, and the fish in the river have become sperm. Several skilled fishermen in the village often return empty-handed. But the big kid from my own family is lucky, from the small fry he caught to make soup, to the big carp weighing 1 or 2 pounds later on. It's rare to have meat on the table at home, although it's not enough to be full, it's really satisfying. Later on, I saw that Yongcheng was able to catch several large fish that weighed a lot at once. Zhao Guilin refused to let her family eat, so she asked her son to sell it in the city for money. Eating less meat on the stomach won't kill a person's craving, but if the family can't provide the dowry money, their son won't be able to marry his wife. Yongcheng is already 18 years old, and in rural areas, he can get married and have a full house by the early 15th or 16th. Unlike people in the city who insist on getting married at the age of 20. In rural areas, one can get married first, and once they worship the church, they are considered married. The certificate can be obtained at an advanced age. So in earlier years, there would still be child brides. A few days ago, a woman from the same village who married into Qingjia village saw Yongcheng when she returned to her mother's house. He ran over to Zhao Guilin and said, "I haven't seen you for a few days. Your big kid is becoming increasingly rare. Why don't you find a good marriage yet? There is a famous handsome girl from all over the village in my mother-in-law's family. People are beautiful and capable, making it the most suitable match for the Yongcheng brothers." Upon hearing this, Zhao Guilin was immediately moved. Previously, due to Yongcheng's weak physique and frequent illnesses. In addition, Lao spread rumors in the village that Yongcheng had hit the target with evil spirits, and the 2 younger brothers who died prematurely below were the ones he managed to kill. And I am also a short-lived ghost, with no chance of surviving for 25 years. If anyone marries him and is not a widow, they will also be killed by him. Although superstition was eradicated after liberation, the deep-rooted feudal ideology remained strong, especially in rural areas. With the idea of believing in what they have and not believing in what they don't have, several admirers of Yongcheng have all bowed out. Zhao Guilin remained silent, but her heart was filled with anxiety and anger. So, upon hearing these words, she immediately gave the woman a dozen or so eggs stored at home along with a small basket. I said a lot of good things and promised to thank the matchmaker for running errands for 2 yuan as long as this matter could be done. The woman took on all the responsibility and said that this could be done, and she could reply to the letter no later than 3 to 5 days. Zhao Guilin glanced at the 2 large bundles of fabric, feeling a pang of heartache and wanting to blame her son for spending money recklessly. If the proposal is successful, there will still be a lot of money to be spent on. But no matter what, even if she sells iron by smashing the pot, she still needs to find a good wife for her son. The 3 mothers, talking and laughing, entered the room. Zhao Guilin stuffed the fabric from those 2 large rolls into the cabinet on the Kong in the outer room. The man was still working in the field and didn't come back. Zhao Guilin carried the meat to the stove to cook. She's quite busy today, she has to figure out how to eat such a big piece of meat. Storing the fat or refined oil in a small jar can last for several months. Leave the meat residue in the cabbage bun and put it in the filling. Make another piece of cured meat, and when guests come, you will have a hard dish that you can handle. Finally, I gritted my teeth and cut a third of it to make braised pork belly. The old lady's mouth is weak. When the new year comes, she just clamors for braised pork belly. I haven't seen any meat or fish at home for half a year, so let's indulge once. It's not that anyone is born to be frugal, it's all due to the pressures of life. Without foresight, there must be immediate worries. At the innermost corner of the house, on the Kong, there was an old lady with gray hair sitting on the top of the Kong, surrounded by a large quilt. At this moment, the sun had not yet set, but the room was dark like a haunted house in the escape room. The house where He Yongqing's family lives is a west wing house, which used to be the lower shed where his family used to pile firewood. Zhaoshuyuan.com. When the family moved in, they had to put in a lot of effort to tidy up before barely looking like home. But it's still cold in winter and hot in summer. Although the house was neatly tidied up by Zhao Guilan, it couldn't change its dilapidation. The adobe walls were rough and cracked like Mrs. He's hands, making the already small window room even more gloomy. Looking up, you can see only the thick beams of the bowl and the reeds on the beams exposed outside. The house is only 1.5 rooms in size, separated into 2 parts. Entering the door is a square table, with several bricks resting on one leg of the table. This is the place where the family eats, and towards the west is a large Kong that can sleep 4 or 5 people. In addition to a set of wooden boxes on the Kong head, there is also a cabinet that is half a person high in the corner of the wall. These 2 types of furniture are enough to hold the clothes of the next family throughout the 4 seasons. On the triangular wooden frame on the right side of the entrance, there is a basin, and a towel with an indistinct original color is hanging on a nail on the wall. The only wall in the whole room facing the door, with over a dozen certificates of commendation pasted in the most prominent area. That was what He Yongqing got from childhood to school, and it was also the only colorful thing in this room. Grandma lives in one of the rooms, only half the size, half covered with a heated Kong, with a simple cabinet made of wooden boards. It can be used to store some junk, but the main function is that the old lady can lean against it, not directly against the wall, which is so cold. Next to the old lady's house, there is a small kitchen set up in the south. Not only to save local resources, but also to save firewood. Because the 2 heated Kong beds are connected, the heat from the kitchen fire will first reach the old lady's heated Kong, and the remaining temperature will also be transmitted to the heated Kong outside the big house.